All right, so I'm filming this on May 15th, 2025, and, Leafs just got absolutely slaughtered last night against Florida in Game 5 of the second round of the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. And as we all know, Leafs are unfortunately quite known as choke artists. They do not have a great history. And when I say they do not have a great history, I more mean they have a disastrous history. So if you're not familiar with the series, it started off at 2-0 Leafs, which was amazing because usually Leafs like to play from behind. Unfortunate again, but that's typically how they've done it in the past. So it was so welcomed that back-to-back series, they started with a solid lead. Then, of course, Florida made it 2-2, which tied the series at 2, and then it became a best-of-3 series. As I mentioned earlier, Florida absolutely pumped the Leafs in Game 5 at a whopping 6-1. Which was it was quite a disastrous game. I was on a call with a friend and I was we were talking about other things. I was just watching into the background, but holy fuck, it was just like a real time. Team was just imploding and it was just crazy to watch. At least I made it productive while I was watching, because what the fuck was that performance, bro? But I found it very curious to observe the reactions that followed, because the series is at 3-2. The series is not over. All the Leafs have to do going forward is just win 2 games. They've done this many, many times. They're very capable of doing so. Objectively, they are the second best team from a winning standpoint this regular season. Now, I know people are like, oh, but it's just regular season. I'm aware. But that's just a reminder of what the team is actually capable of. Now, this is about to go slightly against the point I'm about to make, but hear me out for a second. People on X were basically selling the team. I swear that was 60% of the posts I saw last night were just people already making off-season moves, who to sign, who to re-sign, who to let go of, making plans to demolish the team, and they just think the season's already a wrap. And on one hand, a lot of those people are calling the people who don't think that delusional, but I would actually argue that those people are the most delusional because they're not observing reality objectively. Now, the Leafs are down 1 game out of the best of 3. Yet all these people are treating it as if the series is completely over. One thing I learned from a family friend many moons ago now, and I thought it was an incredible lesson, is that at the roulette table, people often believe that spins are related to each other. That, because it was black this time, it must be red next time, or vice versa, or what have you. Or it must keep going, whatever story they're telling themselves about it. But the reality is, each spin is completely independent and has nothing to do with any other spin for any other reason. And the same is true at games. Sure, momentum is a thing, and it can affect the players and it can affect the people involved if they allow it. Now, that is the rational, objective approach, to know that every time that a player touches the ice, that is an independent shift that has nothing to do with the other shifts. That every game is completely independent of all the other games. That every series is independent of the other series. That every season, that every playoffs is going to be independent from the last. And of course, it becomes more rational when you think about all the changes that can take place and the inputs changing the outputs kind of thing. But even if you kept things very similar or even the same, they would still be completely independent of each other, just like that roulette wheel. But it's a funny thing that people do. We'll see whether the players follow suit with this or not, but it's a funny thing that all the fans sit there and try to paint the present with the past. But the present is completely independent of everything that happened in the past and everything that might happen in the future. That is just straight up reality. Now, you could also make the point of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Totally get that as well. There's seemingly opposing things here, but I think both are also true at the same time. In this situation, yes, the players do need to step it up. Yes, key members of the core 4, the key players for the Leafs do need to step up and reach that different level for the next 2 games, 100%. And at the same time, this is also a different team than every other year. It is the greatest chance the Leafs have had to advance. It is the best team on paper and off paper that I've personally seen in my lifetime as a Leafs fan. Now, this is less about hockey and just more about observing life, because whether those key players choose to show up in the next 2 games, that's up to them. To think that just because of what happened in the past with the Leafs playoffs means they can't win 2 games is an absurd take. It's highly emotional, very unlogical, and that's why sports also thrives, because people just go so hard with the emotion and don't think clearly. So the honest, rational approach here is just to be 100% fucking present with what happens. There is nothing else. It only just feels like there's something else. If they come back, it will be 1 shift at a time, 1 period at a time, and 1 game at a time. It's only 2 games. And if you're not so in it, if you discard what occurred in the past and allow it to be as independent as it actually is in reality, you can see that. It's nothing crazy. But if you let the stories of the past delude you into misperceiving the present, then it becomes very hard to see that, because you're viewing it through a filter of what happened rather than what could happen and the infinite possibilities that could arise there. So ultimately, whether the Leafs show up or not, we'll find out. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But to sell the team early to apply the past to the present, I think is the real delusion in that fan base. Now, in terms of your own life, if you find yourself being super influenced by the past, check in. Notice if there is a wanting to make that real again, wanting to be held back by that. And then you can release that. Just notice if that's just a memory. That's just the past appearing as relevant to the now. And that too can be released. That can be dissolved. Then you can see clearly of what's actually occurring in the here and the now, as if there is anything but this. If you want to learn more about how to release, you can get that guide for free below. And if you're curious about getting some coaching as well, you can get that linked below as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching and listening. Go Leafs, go. And I will catch you in the next one.